Tonight on The Breakdown, they're at it already. The team debate who should start for the All Blacks. See if you agree. Wallaby Centurion Sekope Kepu joins the panel to chat Pacifica rugby. And the boys are in cross-code heaven as we catch up with World Test champion Tim Southee and Goldie relives past glories.
Kia ora koutou katoa, talofa bula malole elele. Hello and welcome to The Breakdown. Well, the Festival of Pacifica Rugby kicked off over the weekend in Wellington. The Sevens team have taken their next step towards the Olympics, and now it's time for the All Blacks to open their account in 2021 at Mount Smart Stadium against Tonga this Saturday. And for Ian Foster and his team, it's the next opportunity to inspire another generation of All Blacks. The team, we are back together. JK's smiling and smirking away there. We'll talk about the next generation.
What sort of opening was that? What was that last bit?
I think this is the next generation of All Blacks. You obviously disagree.
So
You'll get your chance.
This next Test series is going to be the inspiration for the next.
Yes, as we go towards the next Rugby World Cup. You can just keep your powder dry just for a moment. Hannah, Mills, let's talk about it. This is the first test for the All Blacks. How do you think they'll approach not just this first week, but the next three?
Yeah, it's exciting, isn't it? I reckon they have to choose some experience, but I think they can reward some people that played really well through Super Rugby in these first couple of test matches.
Do you see it the same way, Mills?
Yeah, I see it similar. I think you do. You introduce a couple of new guys in there, but there is a sort of a bulk of a lot of the experience that you can still sort of pull out. Some guys returning. I think you give them an opportunity to get back into the swing of test match footy, and now's a perfect chance to be able to do that.
So I'm obviously hopeful that we're going to see new faces, JK. You've talked about at length it's time to pick on form. And at the moment, the form is Super Rugby form. Do you think the selectors are going to reward that? Or for this first test match of the year, are they going to go back to their experience? And saying that, they've got a number of injuries already. How do you think they approach it?
Well, I disagree with all of you.
Brilliant.
I think it's...
That's how you start every show, JK.
I don't. I've been really good just lately, to be fair, because I just think, and it's not Tonga's fault, I still think we've got eligibility issues. I mean, apparently there's 15 guys that have been playing club rugby and they're going to play a test match against hardened Super Rugby finalists, especially the Blues. But, but my problem is I don't think we're going to learn too much in the first few weeks. I don't understand why we didn't... the Māori played Samoa, and then Samoa's second game would be against the All Blacks to be a little bit better. So I don't understand coming in cold like that. However, saying that, I think that we may as well just take the opportunity to get some guys out there and see how they go. What will we learn? I think very little until we get on later into the tournament when teams can play a few games and start competing.
All right, the biggest talking point coming out of selection, probably going into this game, is going to be the midfield, the number of players who are out unavailable through injury. Braden Ennor was the latest one. Of course, no Anton Leonard-Brown. Hannah, do you see a solution, or is it just last man standing?
Well, at 13 it is, isn't it? We're certainly light at 13. I think we've got some really good options through the back line, but 13 we're certainly light.
And so are you, like JK's going to keep bleating on about the fact that it's Rieko Ioane? Is that the way you'd go?
Yeah, I think so. I think Havili and Rieko in the midfield for me.
That's a blessing in disguise, really, isn't it? I think now is an opportunity. When they always talk about taking your opportunity when it sort of comes to you, this is now, for Rieko to take, and also David Havili in terms of their combination. So that'll be the fit. My only concern is their defensive effort. How are they going to go? Who is going to be the person that dominates? Because we love seeing this. We'll see a lot of this against Tonga. His natural flair and being able to express himself and make busts. But from me, and when I go to your point, JK, it's who's going to be the person that sort of defends and sits someone on their backside that we sort of always have had for the All Blacks. And this is a good chance now to do it against a Tongan team that will be sort of direct and physical. So I suppose that would be what I'm looking for in terms of what we learn. But the two guys together, I think now's a good chance to sort of mould that combination together.
Why are you so convinced about Rieko Ioane long-term in the centre position?
Just because of his out-and-out pace. I think I think he's still getting to grips with the defensive line and just getting really confident. He'll put a big hit on when he's really, really confident defending at 12, where he's got someone that he's really confident with, and I think that could be Havili. I just think, and sometimes he tries a little bit too much on the outside, so I like to see him attacking the inside shoulder a wee bit more, but he's just got out-and-out pace. Now, before the last World Cup, we were talking about having to compete with real pace out wide, right? And I just think if we want to have something X factor, you imagine it. You got someone who's organising you well at 12, you got pace at 13, 14, 11.
And it's different comms, and you'd understand it too. Like the thing is, when you're sitting out in the wing, so it takes a bit of maturity in that position, that centre role. It takes a bit of maturity to be able to understand sort of what messages you need to feed into your second 5 or your 10, compared to being out wide when you're just waiting for the ball and saying, hey, there's space. Now you've got to organise, so he's got to actually help organise and give those messages to someone like a Havili or a Moonga or a Barrett who's in there, and that's where maturity comes into it. And you can only gain that by playing that position. He's had a couple of years now with the Blues. He's taken on a leadership role, which I think is fantastic. Now is his chance to step up to the big time and grow that. Grow that in an environment where it's possibly been given to him there because of the injuries.
So
did you say
let's
Barrett?
assume that happens. No, let's assume that happens.
Right? I was wondering which one and where.
Well, there's plenty of them. When you're naming the team Barrett, and Barrett. Look, it's been said already, Hannah, the fact that Geordie Barrett is the option at the moment to possibly cover the midfield. You've been saying this for a while. He's capable. Do you see the capabilities there? Does he have the right skill set? And is it still a matter we're still asking him to do something he hasn't done for a while?
Yeah, look, I probably don't see Geordie in the midfield. I probably see him, without Rico on the wing, we need a big, powerful winger. And I'd like to see him out on the wing filling that role. He's a little bit taller than the rest of the wingers we've got. He's good in the air. He's got a good skill set. He can come and take long-range penalties. I probably see him used in that role more than in the midfield within these Test matches.
So that's going to be a great selection debate. But when you start talking about who's going to start at fullback, you've been talking about Geordie Barrett, and his form through Super Rugby was outstanding for the Hurricanes. But maybe at the moment the numbers with Damien McKenzie. Do we lose something, or is it a matter of, and this is where you keep talking about it as well, are we in danger of moving players out of their specialist positions?
Well, I think with the loss of the midfield, Geordie goes straight to the wing. I think he's the informed fullback. Once again, I'll repeat, I don't think this is going to come down to a 3-point victory where you need to kick a 55-metre goal kick at the end of the game, like could happen in your World Cup semi-final, quarter-final. So I still think his kicking game, his ability to kick long goals, is really, really important at the tight next level. But with losing the centres, I think he goes straight onto the wing. I think they put D-Mac's son at fullback, and they'll bring Bowden on late somewhere. We're
always talking combinations, so we've got plenty of experience at lock, and you talk about the fact whether or not they introduce Brodie Retallick straight back into the mix, but the skipper Sam Whitelock's going to be there. But the biggest debate we've probably had pre-coming on air is what's going to happen in the loose forward trio, Hannah, and is that a hard one to pick given the versatility of all of the players?
Yeah, I think the decision for the coaches is actually where you play Artie, and the rest of it falls from that. So if you play Artie at 7, then that's a different makeup that fills the rest of those loose forward roles. Or if you play him at 8, again, the same kind of combination chat comes in. I'd personally like to see him at 8 and start Dalton at 7 and put some fresh blood in there and put Blackadder at 6.
No, I mean, for me...
You looked at Mills looked at you and you're like, no one wants to take ownership of this.
For me, want to win a World Cup, need absolutely world-class, game-changing number 8. And I think Artie is an outstanding number 8, but I think he's a better 7 at that level. And I reckon you've got to play Hoskins from now until the World Cup, so he gets there with 30-odd Test matches, right? Because I think his acceleration off the mark, his ability to take a bad scrum and get over the advantage line, his ability to do that out wide is very special. Now, Artie can do that as well, but you imagine him on the right side and Artie on the left side in attack, right, on the fringes. And I just think Artie wants to play 7. Your captain's out, just play him there.
All right, if I said this to you, right, and this is when I talked about the next generation, he's part of the next generation for me, right? It's about.
I thought you were about kids watching.
No,
I didn't think you were talking about the kids watching.
Some of these guys are
matches.
kids in terms of their experience at the highest level. I want to know then how you're going to incorporate all of the skill set into the way the All Blacks play, because I feel for a long time, Mills, we were very much focused on a couple of teams that had put us under a lot of pressure, both England and South Africa, and we ended up trying to counter what they were doing versus actually showcasing a skill set that we do have, and we started started to try and invent a way to win.
Yeah.
And I look at some of these talented players, the likes of your Jacobsons, the Satutus. How are you going to use Brodie Retallick now coming back? Because, remember, his frame's different. Cody Taylor on the edges. I want to see us play differently and play to our skill sets versus chasing 1 or 2 wins that we might have in 3 years' time.
It's always a tough one, isn't it? Because you want to evolve, and when you look at what's happening on the other side of the world, but sometimes you often neglect your positives, your strengths. And our strengths has always been the skill set of our players. Whether you got a number 1 on your back with it, or number 15, I think they possibly went away from that. And also balancing that up in terms of bolstering up our front row. Now we talked about, I think, the last World Cup, that they weren't mobile enough, and that perhaps was the case because they wanted to actually structure our game a little bit more. So it's always hard when you're sitting there as a coach. Ian Foster and his coaching team would have had a good chance to actually reflect on how Super Rugby Aotearoa and also that Trans-Tasman went. So implementing the game plan is a perfect way to get out there. And you're not going to get everything perfectly right, but here's a time now to start. And when you're looking, I agree with JK. I think you leave Hoskins there because of his ability to be able to get off the back in attacking areas. You still got Artie there to be able to go in at defensive effort when you're coming hard on your own line and come out, because he's so good at doing that. So they mix and match, and that's probably one of the strengths of New Zealand rugby at the moment as well, is the fact that we've got guys that can play anywhere in that loose trio department. But the thing is, how do you get that balance and so you're not chopping and changing week in, week out? Because I think that causes disruption.
I think part of the problem too, also retrospectively looking at the World Cup, we had a really tight game at Twickenham. You and I were there. We went and lost in Ireland, and that, I believe, put probably a bit of a spanner in the works, and the coaching staff came back and said, well, what are we going to do? And we started sort of changing a couple of things that we did, and losing to England probably hurt a wee bit. But I'm like you, Mills. I don't know what you think, hanging about. These guys would have gone away and thought about it, and I don't disagree with you. We need to come up with something new for the next World Cup. When we bring that out, I don't know, because we don't have that much time. Are we going to the Northern Hemisphere? Hopefully we go this year, and we can actually go, OK, let's take something different.
Well, Hen, quite often on the very first Test match of the year, they talk about the fact, we've only had a short time together, we gave them so much information. Do we need to do that at this point of the season, given the fact that we know what's in front of us? What would you like to see out of these first 3 performances in regards to a team ethos and the way they approach the game?
Yeah, I think it's really important how they approach these games, the systems and to Mills's point, the systems and structures they put in place through these games that they can develop as they go into the Test later on in the year. What's really interesting to me is probably that inside-back combination, and we haven't spoken about it yet, but who they test Christie at halfback, who's at 10, who's slotting in at 15. I think those combinations have to be really worked through to get to their team by the end of the year.
And I think quite often that is where, like you say, you start your team. And I just look at it and go, I think fundamentally I know what we're capable of. And that's why I look at it. I'd like to see the challenge taken up with the fact that we've been such, I suppose, innovators of the game. But I want to see us play. I don't want to see us grind team games out. I want to actually see us be really clinical over these next 3 weeks. But you know what? Clinical doesn't mean it's not flashy. What it is create space, find it and get the ball and move it there easily and make it look easy. Because in the past, I think we've won games like this, and we haven't made it look easy enough. We
do want to have that. We have that balance. But again, where have we struggled? Every single time we've gone against the English or a big-time game, it's our kicking. The effectiveness of our kicking, the ability to be able to say, well, we have to actually grind this game out. And this is where I think we need a lot of work. And when you talk about Christie and the way he's played over the Super Rugby, his kicking is outstanding. So when it becomes a grind and it sort of seems that boring, that's when we tend to get ourselves into trouble. So I think that's a part of our game that's been a weakness for many years, because we just simply think it's boring.
I can't wait in 7 days' time to be on this show and having talked about a game with the All Blacks. What have they implemented? What have they selected? What have they put together? That's the action, of course, that's happening here at home over the next 7 days. But, Bern, there's plenty of stuff working on around the world. Come on in and run us through exactly what we need to catch up with, because there is plenty.
You know you've made it when you get your own bumper right.
Look at that.
Hey? I'm touched. Thanks, team. All right, look, a quick burn around the world, and about to depart for another part of the world. Chiefs man Lachlan Bosher. Now, the 26-year-old Lucy has signed a 2-year deal with Japanese club Panasonic. 64 appearances for the Chiefs after debuting in 2016. Sayonara to a real workhorse of New Zealand rugby. Shame to see him go, team. Wonder Wonder if we should possibly start a rumour and say that, you know, he's already got his flatmates sorted. Of course, Bodie Barrett's coming back. Damien McKenzie might be able to take his place. What do you reckon? He'd make a good flatty.
I'll tell you what's interesting
Just
for
putting
me
it
is
out there.
a couple of weeks ago he's wearing a Blues jersey. So does that mean you don't care anymore? That you might lose these two world-class quality players of the Chiefs? This is not a big deal?
Hey, mate, this is the future, mate. There's a lot of good young talent coming through in the Chiefs region, mate. I'm looking forward to that. Hey.
Politician right there.
I don't know why he's gone at 26.
Boshier?
Yeah.
If he didn't make the ABs last time round, what's to say he'd make it this time round, which he hasn't. So maybe he's thinking, got to make the money.
28, you can still leave and get another 8 years, try for the next World Cup. Attrition rate.
It's such a tough decision, though, eh, Jake? I mean, we're talking about the Lucies that we've got for the All Blacks. I mean, man, I suppose when he looks at it, you know, the guys in front of him, has he had talks with the All Black coaches? You know, I mean, it's a brave decision for him, and something to give up. And this is probably where we don't really appreciate the decisions those young guys have to make in terms of that.
Does that happen? Do you have a conversation with an All Black selector and say, hey, I've got this offer, I want to go, are you going to keep me? Does that happen?
I think they reflected in what you get offered.
And in recent times, that's been really
Like
clear.
Nani and him probably got offered a
Cha-ching.
deal that says we're not that interested.
Oh, well, I rate him.
I doubt if they
Oh, he's a hell of a player.
Amazing player. All right, our Sevens team are in Aussie on Olympic prep duty. Nice for some, don't you think? Warm weather, drink by the pool. Throwing away with knee to the head and 7 stitches. Ruby Tui taking one for the team. It's not Chardonnay poolside, but claret sideline. She's all good, though. She said it was just another day at the office. Typical Ruby fashion, isn't it? She's thanked all her fans for the messages, especially the Harry Potter ones. Don't forget to take your magic to Tokyo, Rubes, will you? All right, let's continue globe-trotting and head to the north, where the British and Irish Lions have flown to South Africa with a new skipper, but an uncertain playing schedule. Instead of safari tours and biltong barbecues, the Lions may be holed up in their hotel. 3 Springboks have tested positive for COVID-19, so all 50 of the squad are in isolation. Now, they're scheduled to have a warm-up match against Georgia this weekend, but it might just be laps of the hotel and Zumba classes by Zoom to keep fit. What kind of tour is it going to be? There's no crowds now that South Africa has moved to level 4 with night-time curfews. It's terrible, terrible timing. But someone who is smiling, Conor Murray, the Irish halfback, named as the new tour skipper after Alan Wynne-Jones dislocated a shoulder in a warm-up match against Japan. So Wynne-Jones, he'll be gutted. Bit of surprise with Gats naming Murray as the captain. No shortage of leaders in the pack. Mario Otoje, Owen Farrell, Ken Owens. Not the way you really want to become captain, but at least Murray knows that he's going to be starting, right?
Well, there's no guarantees there's time before then. You'd think so. Stranger things have happened in times. And the interesting thing about the weekend for me about that game wasn't actually about the Lions.
No, how good was Japan?
Yeah.
I mean, why aren't we... We should be playing Japan every year, right?
Yeah, I agree. It's a real shame that they've fallen off the test schedule.
Because I was just impressed, Mills, the way they play the game. This is a connection we seem to have been making. Why has it not been built on?
Do not even start me on this conversation.
No, why do you think I started you on this conversation?
It's the most ridiculous thing that can happen. So Japan is the 3rd biggest economy in the world. Their clubs spend millions of dollars buying our players. They should be in our competition. That's where our future sponsorships come from. We can have relationships where we can pick our All Blacks, might be over, even someone like Bashir who's playing in the competition against us. What are we thinking?
Did they not fly, though, after all the World Cup negotiations as to who was doing deals? Didn't Japan side not with New Zealand for a bid?
It was a voting thing.
Yeah, I wonder if there was a bit more...
Maybe, but on the quality of what they're playing in terms of rugby, they're the sorts of challenges we continue to need to get, and in a different market.
Indeed. All right, well, staying in the north, Wallaby great Michael Lina's son, Louis, became the youngest try scorer in the Premiership final with 2 late touchdowns to Harlequins a come-from-behind win against Exeter. He's got some skills, all right, and check out the finish. Yeah, flying finish, pretty impressive. 40-38 the final score, and Lina Jr., he's tipped to play for England sooner rather than later. Does that make you feel old?
Oh, it makes JK feel real old.
How old?
I played a bit with Michael, to be fair. I met little Lewis when he's like... Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, all right, let's move on. That's perfect. All right, Joe Marler, he was man of the match, and his speech was, as you'd expect, entertaining.
Congratulations, that was a stunning performance.
No, louder.
Are you serious? Don't do this to me again. Genuinely, do not do this to me again. Well done. 2-time Premiership champion, Joe Marler. How does that sound?
Oh, good. It sounds better than a one-time. I don't know what I'm saying. It's just, it's loud noises. I love Lamb. What happened at the end there? Thomas goes, boys, we got a clean exit. Oh, let's just leave the ball to Nosey and score under the sticks just so the fans can cheer at something. It's crazy.
Unbelievable. Give that man his own show. How good is he?
So good.
So refreshing, utterly refreshing. Look, tasked with keeping the Harlequins club in winning fashion, we can reveal exclusively here on The Breakdown our own Tumbai Matson, our stats guy, has signed on with the club as head coach. There'll be some good number crunching sessions ahead for the boys. Get comfy seats for your whiteboard sessions. They could be lengthy. What do you reckon?
What's up with taking none of us with him? And he hasn't showed up for work for a month.
I thought he went to get the Uber,
Could have given us the heads
for
up.
dinner, and he never came back.
I thought he had COVID. Where have you been, Tabs? Your shout too, by the way, so that's a good contract.
We'll never see him again. He's gone. All right, they say good things take time, and I think this one definitely qualifies. French referee Romain Poit has admitted that he got it wrong when he changed a penalty against the Lions in the final minutes of the drawn third test against the ABs at Eden Park in 2017. JK is shaking his head. Poit says he knew almost immediately that he should have stuck with the kickable penalty and not been talked into changing it into a scrum by Jerome Garcias. Do we agree or not? This man's obviously had sleepless nights worrying about it.
I feel better. Does everyone else feel better?
Changes nothing.
No. Salt to the wounds.
Exactly.
Rub it in. Rub it in. But,
Come out how many years later?
Yeah, exactly. But some people just can't move on. It's one that keeps them awake at night. There's always one. Fans can't let go. Goldie, I know which one yours
Yes,
is.
I
Do we have
know.
to go there again?
No, you don't have to
What
go there
refereeing
again.
decision keeps you awake at night?
It wasn't a refereeing decision. There's no doubt about that. There was one I did lose. There was a final. Otago played Auckland and we were at Eden Park, so Colin Hawke got it right, according to the Aucklanders. But it was a penalty try, apparently.
See, people don't let things go. JK, have you got a refereeing?
No, I'd say this. He was a hell of a referee. Very, very good referee. Still got it right.
Backtrack.
Still got it wrong.
Yeah, the Stormers kicked it out. We were winning the game in the 91st minute. They kicked it out, then took a quick throw in and scored in the corner and we lost.
Was this when you were at the Blues?
League legacy.
Yeah.
Ouch, that
still
hurts.
hurt. Yeah, I'm still hurting.
Hannah?
It didn't change the score on the game, but I still feel aggrieved. I got sent off my only red card for over vigorous fending against a Hong Kong team.
Over vigorous fending?
Good, eh?
What,
At
you
the
get
Hong
them in
Kong
the head or
Sevens,
something?
they were just very small.
Oh,
Go, Millsy.
I've got none. I mean, now that I think about it, I would love to say the 2007 Rugby World Cup when there was a forward pass, but to be honest, I didn't actually know until after the game. So I just jumped on the bandwagon.
They'll apologise for that in about 5 years. They'll apologise for that
That'll be
eventually.
an unused slot in about 3 years' time,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
just watch the space. Well, I got kicked out of Brownie, so I reckon I win. Lastly, you know you're important when the president rocks up for a photo. French President Emmanuel Macron posed for a snap with two-time All Black world champion Jerome Kano after his final game of rugby. His Toulouse club beat La Rochelle 18 points to 8 in the top 14 final. A nice victory to go with the European title. It's not over for Kano in Toulouse, though. He's staying on with the club as coach. And what's the bet that Kano will feature in the greatest All Blacks debate here on Breakdown? Those players being picked early next month. No fighting, team. All right?
No problem.
Just warning you about that. All right, time
I'm
to
pleased you
tickle.
told me. I wondered who that was with Jerome Kano.
He's very big in France, apparently. Real big. Calls a lot of shots. All right, time to tickle the grey matter and test the archives of our minds with our trivia question this week. No. It's kangaroo flavoured. It's right, JK, I'll help you out. It's kangaroo flavoured. So as we head to the break, ponder this. You get your Google out and the guys can scratch their head. And Hannah, we've got this, Hannah. All right, which Wallaby forward, sorry, Mills, has played the most test matches? Which Wallaby forward has played the most test matches?
So right, I don't know.
Back with the panel's answers, or should I say guesses, in just a tick. Let's, in the meantime, check out a huge derby from the Auckland Schoolboys comp.
This is one of the biggest games in the school rugby calendar. King's College versus Auckland Grammar.
This is what they'll do. Penny spins around, yes! Half a chance turned into points.
Lucas. Palau. Sekope Kepu. Through the hole goes big Sekope Kepu. Still going. Now he's got support on the inside and he can get the offload. Still going Sekope Kepu. Half a metre. Reaches out and he gets there. I think he does. Brilliant try. You are unlikely to see a better try from a prop forward than that.
No, you will not. Welcome back to Breakdown. Sensational stuff by Kepu, who, by the way, joins us now. And I think we exclude him from this trivia question because it just wouldn't be fair.
Or we make sure that the panel might be right. Let's,
really?
I know that I do know. I was part of this earlier on, so I won't.
Oh, you know the answer?
Yeah, I'm not going to give it all. I was part of it with Jim earlier on, so...
Pick up your bottom lip, Mills. It's all right, because JK doesn't know either.
Usually he yells something out by this time.
All right, let's just recap the question first before we all climb in with our renter guess. All right, which Wallaby forward has played the most Test matches? This is not multi-choice. It's probably multi-guess. But, JK, what have you got for us? Correct! That's what I said.
I don't care.
He's tapping out.
No, Smith.
No, it's not him. It's
hang on, how do you know the answer?
I know the answer. Did you know
Mills,
it was?
No, you've got the graphic up. The entire team is looking at the graphic with the answers. So there you go. The Wallaby forward who's played the most Test matches. We're not talking about George Gregan, who is a little nippy halfback. Stephen Moore, 129. He, of course, the only Australian hooker to have played 100 Test caps, 24 of those as captain. He's the 14th most capped player of all time. And my work here
and
is
your
done.
work here is done.
You're so welcome.
And it's with that, what is it, 110 Test matches there. Sekope Kepu joins us. Welcome to New Zealand, welcome home in some ways. Great to be back. Counties Manukau at the NPC. Excited to, I suppose, get a taste of New Zealand rugby again?
Yeah, look, thanks for having me, guys. Look, I'm pretty excited. My release sort of comes through in a couple of days, so I just can't wait to play rugby again, really. And to do it at Counties, where everything started for me, it's pretty special. So it's come pretty much a full circle.
Have you had a couple of trainings at Pukekohe yet, down there with the boys?
Yeah.
They going hard?
They've got our drive down there. No, it's been good. We've had a few Wednesday sessions with the Cavaliers, which is like the development and guys from club rugby coming together. So, it's been good. The surprise for me is the skill set that the guys have got and just the pace that they're training at is it's exciting for me. So, getting old now, so trying to keep up with those young guys is...
Not on this panel, you're not. You're not on this panel.
Would you like to... And it's an eligibility question. I can't get that out. But would you go back and play for your homeland now, even though you've played 100-odd tests? And do you think you should be able to?
Yeah, look, I think past players should be able to do that. Personally, that's my opinion. At this stage and my age, I don't think so. Like I feel like I've done my dash at the international level. But I think there's still a lot of debate, and I think that it should, guys, personally, I think that guys should be able to play for their countries where their parents are from and give back. I think is something that to have all the best, very best players in the world play for their home countries, so to speak, is I think would just bring eyes and to the TVs and people to the stadiums. Personally, I think that would be great for the game.
Kips, I mean, you're back, obviously, counties and that, but you're doing a little bit of stuff with Dilworth and in terms of their coaching. But the Moana Pacifica, is that something you talk about, your homeland and things. Would that be something that you would like to go back and sort of contribute to? You might even be involved already. Have they signed you up as a coach? Because you're probably getting paid potatoes at Counties, aren't you?
Good potatoes.
They're the finest potatoes.
Don't underestimate those.
Yeah, really good.
No, look, firstly, I think, we bumped into each other a few weeks back at grassroots level. I am, and shout out to the Dilworth, my Dilworth boys. Look, giving back to that grassroots is a big part of why I love the game, and seeing those smiles on those kids' faces is great for me. That's me. That was me growing up, I still remember an assembly I had at Glennis Primary there, where Jonah came, nice. And it was just like the best thing that happened during that school year. So, look, and then going back to counties, it was wouldn't say it was an easy decision, but it was only fitting for me to go back there. And with the new Moana Pacifica team coming in, yeah, I mean, it's something that I'd love to be a part of personally. You know, for our Pacific Island people, it's something that I'm passionate about to mentor and help guide those young guys. And I know the pressures that we as Pacific Island people go through growing up. It's never, you know, we put on the front at times, but things aren't, you know, always great at home. So I think, yeah, for me, I'd love to be a part of that space, and we're in sort of talks at the moment, and hopefully we can get something sorted. Awesome.
Just on Moana Pacifica, since the conversation started around that competition, or that team in the competition, it's been spoken about that the Northern Hemisphere players would come back and play in this team. Having just come back from there, do you think that there is a lot of interest up there, or do you think there's still some work to be done with those players?
I think there's still some work to be done. I think guys, the reason why guys would want to come back is purely, I think, because of what's going on with COVID at the moment, and being far away and the uncertainty of travel and all that stuff. And guys generally want to get back closer to family and friends and support bubbles. So, I mean, that'll be great for the team. But the discussion we had earlier on, JK, where does the opportunity come for the players from the Pacific Islands? And I think, you know, there are ways to incorporate those players, I believe, and I'm sure those are all in the pipelines for, you know, the coaches and the staff when they find a coach.
Well, do you think this is the right stepping stone? Do you think this is the right place to start?
I think so. Yeah, you've got to start somewhere, I believe, and sort of thinking, sitting there thinking about it. You know, whether they send scouts, and again, we go back to the COVID travel restrictions, where you set up academies or something in those relative countries. Tonga, Samoa and Fiji have got their drawer team, so you know, we should all learn from Fiji and especially Tonga and Samoa. So, and whether it's running academies or sending coaches, resource coaches back there to scout the cream of the crop there and bring them back over, is probably an opportunity, you know, something that they maybe should look at, or probably already are doing.
We need to be way more professional in that area, don't we? Because I know that the rugby league especially are doing so much more. Even football's doing a lot more in the Pacific now. My biggest fear is if you are in a small village in Tonga or in Samoa, how do you actually get to Moana Pacifica? How do you get seen? You know, is it just going to be for New Zealand or Australian-born Pacifica? But I just want to see a plan around making sure that we're taking some money back into the Pacific. We've got to have a couple of games up there. But have you heard how that might happen, or any thoughts of your own? I
haven't heard anything, but definitely my thoughts are all the villages and all the clubs have competitions that happen, and one in one of the outer islands called Vava'u. I think it's almost done. But, I mean, those are the kind of tournaments that, one, you can send resource coaches, and two, you know, you're coaching those guys and you're giving them hope, and that they could potentially come over here and play for Moana Pacifica. So I think those are potential opportunities that I think that... and the blessing about New Zealand is they have already started those relationships and offered those by taking the Super Rugby games over there, and... you know, look at what happened when the Reds played the Blues in Samoa and up here, and that, so, and Fiji, you know. So
this is my last question. 140 games for the Waratahs, 100 caps for the Wallabies. Do you really like scrummaging? Like, my biggest... Because we debate this on the show. Do you like scrummaging so much to the point you think about the game of rugby itself? How would you like to see it played? You know, because at the moment we know it's tough out there. But do you guys just love it up front, and it's the fact that it's such an important part of the game to you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. At the start, you know, when I was learning, and this is going back a few years, where I was a number 8 straight out of school, got picked in New Zealand 19s, went away to that tournament, came back, and I tried to go back to the back row to number 8, and my counties coach at the time got the call, I think, from someone at New Zealand Rugby Union, and said somewhere to go back.
Good old NZR again.
Yeah. Which, look, for me, it's I never look back. You know, that was the day I had to hang those Copa Mundial World Cup boots up, and focus on the front row. But it's something we love. We're passionate about. It's an art. you can never finish, like the conversations front rowers have is just non-stop. It goes around the circle.
And that's where we'll stop you there, because we'll get lost. And I tell you what, I appreciate your honesty around that, you know, because we obviously we don't understand some of the dark arts around that, but it's obviously a really important part of the game. I'm excited to have you back here in New Zealand Rugby. Good luck with not just Companies Manukau, but hopefully with Moana Pacifica in the future. And thank you so much for joining us here tonight. Of course, that's talking about the NPC. We're talking a little bit of Super Rugby. Byrne is going to bring us up to date with all of some of the great club action from around the country.
Absolutely, be my pleasure. Look, Pacifica Rugby, it's going to happen. It's looming. All Blacks might be looming, but let's get a fix of where it all begins, and that's club footy. Let's head to the bottom of the South Island and in South Otago. Cal Merritt featured scoring a cracker for West Tyree against Clutha.
Oh, I love the middle of the park.
The whitest shirt, the whitest legs coming up that you'll ever see, but that's not a bad thing. He's too clean, he hasn't got involved.
Oh, I love the 22 celebration.
But what a finish. Love it. All right, to the big smoke of Auckland, and in under-21 action, Takapuna's number 22, Nikki Uhi, found the line against JK's old outfit, Marist.
Is someone just doing that every week? They put Marist up there loose.
I don't think we're trying very hard, but...
Stop it. All right, and look what they're rolling out. Speaking of all things Auckland, look what they're rolling out in the All Black camp. JK, do you reckon you'd need a pair of these?
Oh, that's
Spot in the All Blacks camp for anyone crying about the Blues victory.
We've been humble.
Hey?
Yeah. I was with you on Saturday. I was with JK on Saturday night, and you're not being humble. I can tell you that for a fact.
He's waited long enough.
Because you were being rude.
What? I was not.
Well, normally he's complaining about the price of chips, so just you've got off lightly. Club footy brought to you by our friends at Grassroots Rugby. From Super Rugby to Grassroots Rugby, professional ref Ben O'Keefe was on duty this weekend, controlling a match in South Auckland. He had the whistle, but Manukau had the win against Papatoetoe, 27 points to 23. Downstate Highway 1 and the Waikato women's competition has finished with Hamilton Old Boys beating Melville 42-3 in the premiership final. Top honours to Kihikihi in the championship final, 31 points to 15, victors against Hamilton Marist. And Manawatu, sorry JK, wins were clocked up for Kiatoa College Old Boys and the two fielding clubs in Wellington. Marist St Pat's thrashed Petone 50-7 to remain top of the table. Across the Cook Strait and Riwaka will play Marist in the Tasman final. There you go, it's better. While Mauteri won the women's final 10-6 against Waimea Old Boys. On the West Coast, there were wins for Grey Valley, Kiwi and South Westland with a round to go before the playoffs. And in Christchurch, Lincoln University down-trowed Wayne Smith's old club Belfast, 89 points to 0.
He'll be on the first plane down there.
He'll be going down there.
He's going straight down there.
Do a clinic, take a bag of donuts. This weekend's top 4 matches in the Garden City feature Lincoln against Sydenham and Christchurch against Burnside. And if we keep heading south, Green Island notched up a decent win against Kaikorai. Am I saying that right? Kaikorai. And it was an extra special match for Green Island clubman and former All Black Ben Smith with 50 matches. It was his Blazer game.
Yeah, it was awesome to play Heritage Weekend, and there's a few old boys that have come back for the weekend, and I really enjoyed running around with the future talent and guys that just enjoy the game at this level and enjoy getting out and giving it their all. And lucky that we came out on the right side of the ledger today, and it makes for a better night in the club room tonight. So yeah, it was something that I've always been looking to do, and glad that I ticked it off tonight. It was really enjoyable. Yeah, I loved it. In the second half, maybe not so much. I was feeling it a wee bit, but no, it's good to have a run.
Oh, still looking in good nick. And from one hero of the big time to a hero at grassroots level, this week we head to Sumner to meet stalwart Lloyd Douglas.
Well, the Sumner Club has been here for a long time, more than what I've been here. I'm only a new boy on the block. I've been here for 40-something plus years. I wouldn't go anywhere else. It's the best little rugby club in the world.
Yeah, so we're here today to really honour Lloyd Douglas, a great character within our club, one of those characters you need for a club to exist and thrive, a man who asks for nothing but gives absolutely everything.
He came out here in the really early days, instantly took on and looked after some of the junior teams. And then about 4 years after that, he put together a team with a number of the other boys. At the same time, he took on the club rooms and started doing all the bits and pieces he does every day around those club rooms and running the bar manager and everything else. So he's been here for basically a lifetime, really.
years and years ago, everyone just think, you're living in Sumner, where's that, you know? It's a way out of town, a long way to come to the games and all that sort of stuff, you know? And now, everybody wants to live out here, and that's a fact.
From coming in here and setting up the club rooms on the morning, to painting the lines on the field, to setting up the subs benches, to coming in tomorrow morning being the first man to clear up. He's just an integral part of this club. He's been a coach, he's been a manager, he's been everything in this club, and every club needs one, and we're so grateful that we've got Lloyd Douglas.
I've seen teams come and go, and at one stage there we must have had about 250 kids playing, junior kids playing rugby down here, but it's flourishing really well now, and what you see here is what it is.
This is his life. You know, even when he was a full-time postie, he was here every day after he'd finished. He basically lives at the club almost. Also, all this time been playing golden oldies. He's only started to get towards retirement now, where he can't run to keep up with anything.
I love playing rugby. After the games here, we get a decent crowd here, and upstairs it's a bedlam.
Under the Southern Cross we stand! The boys from Sunsurf Shield and Sand! The boys from Sunsurf Shield and Sand!
Razor's been here and he's had a few games after he retired from the All Blacks. He goes down the road for a surf or paddleboard. Comes past, he says good day to everyone. So casual and so friendly. That's just Razor.
I don't think we'd be half the club without Lloyd. Really, you know, he does so much behind the scenes that people take for granted because they don't see it. But certainly becoming president and seeing what he does, we couldn't be more grateful for what he does and what he gives our club.
Music!
Kia ora and welcome back to The Breakdown. Well, yes, we may be a rugby show, but sometimes you have to celebrate other wonderful performances. And, of course, over the last 10 days, we have enjoyed some great success on the international stage, and we are it. We are the first World ICC Test champion. And so they're in my queue, these New Zealand cricketers. Tim Southee's got nothing better to do than join us on The Breakdown tonight. Congratulations. Well done. My first question is, mates, have you got any advice for the All Blacks about how to get back to the #1 spot in the world?
No, I'll leave that.
Oh, come on,
for you guys. But no, yeah, it's great to be back. It was obviously a great trip to the UK, to come back and have a couple of weeks in MIQ to reflect on what was a pretty special time.
Tim, born in Whangarei, came down, went to Kings. Played Auckland secondary schools as a rugby player. Obviously, you've been rapt about you guys winning the Test series, but also the Blues winning.
I'm a Chief.
That's what someone told me. I couldn't believe it.
When the Super Rugby started, Northland was part of the Chiefs, so I stayed loyal through to now. So I've always been a Chiefs supporter, and I'll stay to be a Chiefs supporter, even though I played for Auckland secondary schools.
You got that, Mills?
I got it, mate. Oh, yeah, mate. Good stuff. I want to get back to the serious stuff, mate. So, I mean, we've always talked about in the All Blacks about the mental side of the game, but for you guys, really, has that been a big part into being successful in the 5-day game? Because you've got consistency not just in Test match cricket, but through all forms of the cricket. So has that been a big part of your guys?
Yeah, it's been a massive part. I think, especially with the Test format, it does test you in a number of ways. Obviously, going for 5 days, it can be quite mentally draining. Being away on tour for long periods of time, up to 3 months at a time, it can be draining as well. So a big part of the group is trying to enjoy each other, trying to keep each other fresh in different ways, and just trying to enjoy it. What we're doing is an absolute honour and a dream to do. So I think just remembering that it is you started playing as a kid because you love the game, and you still love it now, even though it is your job. So I think that takes a little bit of the mental sort of strain off it when you're away, having so much fun as a group as well.
Hey, Tim, just on the back of Mills's question, I'm really interested to understand, you guys have been so successful in all of the formats of the game, whether you use the different formats as a talent development tool, much like the Sevens have done for the 15s in rugby, or do you just pick the best people to win the pinnacle event at the time?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think with the chopping and changing of the three formats, it's tough for guys to be able to play everything. So I think you see guys kind of get introduced into the T20 format and sort of cut their teeth there. It's a lot of younger guys sort of make their way into that side. But the Test side has been reasonably consistent for a number of years now, and been a pretty tough side to sort of crack into. So yeah, there is a lot of chopping and changing through the three formats, and there is a handful of us that do play all three formats, and juggling that is a bit can be tricky at times as well. But I think you sort of you'll see a lot more younger guys coming into the T20 format rather than any other one.
Tim, Eddie Jones came out last year and said rugby needs, an IPL. We need for guys to be able to go and play in short periods of time, earn a decent amount of money so that they can actually concentrate on Test rugby. Has the IPL been good for cricket for that reason, or is it just another commitment?
Yeah, I think we've been very lucky with New Zealand, with the window that it falls in, and the ability for us to go and play in the IPL as well as play for New Zealand. Whereas in rugby, you look at you can't really go off to Japan or France and then still play for the All Blacks. So we've been very, very fortunate that we've been able to play in various competitions around the world as well as play for New Zealand, as long as that obviously doesn't overlap with our international commitments. But I think the IPL has been brilliant. It's been great for Indian cricket, the young guys coming through and the way that they're playing, but also for us as players to be able to rub shoulders and learn from the best players in the world and play alongside some of the best players in the world, and bring that back to our own country, and especially for us as such a small country to be able to go and I guess learn over there and bring that back has been beneficial as well.
Tim, quite often we talk about moments and significant changes that happens within teams. I think all look back when Richie McCaw became part of the All Blacks. Was there a moment for the Black Caps for you? You look back and you go, you know what, that's when the shift first happened. Obviously over time changes, but for you, was there a key moment in a group of people that changed the direction and course of New Zealand cricket?
Yeah, I think it dates back to 2012. Brendan McCullum's first Test match in charge, and we were bowled out for 45, and that was rock bottom. The side had sort of hid behind a number of things for a few years. There's obviously a lot of stuff going on with the captaincy debate, and then Brendan took over in his first Test in charge, all out for 45. I just don't think it could have got any worse, and the only way was up. And he dragged us out of nowhere. We were going nowhere as a side, and he's just a born leader. Grabbed a few guys and said, "Come with me." And we're sort of just since that day just slowly chipped away. We probably changed the style and how we wanted to play the game. We tried to play like the Aussies. We tried to play like the English, but it just didn't sit with us as Kiwis. And the big shift that he made was to just play like Kiwis. We're representing New Zealand as a country, and not only a cricket team. We want to show the world what Kiwis are like as people as well. So that sat pretty well with us. And as I say, we chipped away, and his aggressive nature and his aggressive captaincy gave us that boost that we needed. And then Kane's taken over. So it's been a bit of a long sort of ride, but it's nice to sit here after last week and reflect on what has been an incredible journey.
Tim, so what now, man? Has there been a schedule out? When do we get to celebrate this? Or is there a big parade that ends up finishing at JK's house where we can all celebrate? Has anything been put in place, mate?
They're talking through something at the moment, but it's tough. With obviously we've got 2 weeks here in quarantine. A number of guys stayed on over in the UK. I think there's 4 or 5 guys stayed on to play over there. So I'm not sure what they've finalised yet, but whether they wait for those guys to come back or try and let guys sort of go back to their hometowns and take the mace with them and do a little bit of a tour around the country. But that'll be finalised over the next couple of weeks while we're stuck in our rooms.
Lastly, you're a blindside flanker apparently. That was your position. Okay, so if you had to compare your game to one of the great All Blacks, who is it? Is it Jerome Kano? Is it the likes of a Reuben Thorne? How would you classify your game? Where would you have had your success?
I'd like to say something like a Jerome Kano, but I didn't have the physical game that he had. I was more of a quiet sort of go about my business. So I'd probably say something like a Reuben Thorne.
All right, well, mate, I'm glad you chose what you chose because you've been such a huge part of New Zealand cricket. I can't congratulate you enough, and I know this country celebrated with you and what you've achieved and what you've earned, and I know you've got a couple of weeks to go. I know what you'll be doing pretty quickly. You'll be on the golf course, right? The first chance you get.
Yeah, we've booked a trip to Taupo. Fair enough. That's coming up, so yeah, I think we're home for a week, and then we're off to Taupo for a couple of rounds of golf, which should be good.
OK, work on your putting at MIQ. Once again, congratulations, and thanks for joining us on The Breakdown. Thanks very much, mate.
Thanks, guys.
Outstanding from the man. We've got 6 tickets to give away, as always, to our games across us this weekend. It's Mount Smart Stadium. It is a double header. I really do hope we get a big crowd team, right, for this one, because this is a big opportunity to see quality teams playing some quality rugby. First All Black team of the year.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm really excited about the game. I want to see some risks taken by the selectors, and I just think it's going to be a fantastic opportunity for some of these young guys to show their stuff.
Should be so great. Looking forward to it. As always, 7 days' time, we'll come together. We'll debate it all. We'll see whether we were right or wrong, Bern, and you'll tell us. You'll tell us all about it. We'll see you in 7 days. Thanks for watching. Mā te wā.
The international rugby season in New Zealand kicks off with Samoa and the Māori All Blacks here in Wellington. Putting the kick through for Stevenson to get under. Oh, he's got it. It's set up beautifully. And Sean Stevenson scores. Stabbed through by Pumai. He could score here. He does. Douglas picks it up, showing the ball over for the try. Relentless pressure. It all ends in smiles. Commanding win for the Māori All Blacks in the end.